Welcome, e-learners. In some regards, I want to say you have arrived. We're going to be taking a look at calculus for the rest of this term, and we're going to start out with just a discussion of the definition of derivative. And a derivative is just a slope formula. We've talked about a slope formula before, and this you have seen numerous times this year. You may have to jog your memories a little bit. But this is basically in regards to finding a point on a curve, and that point could be f of x, finding a point close to there on the curve, say x, slide to the right an additional small amount h, f of x plus h. Find the slope from here to here. And if we could have h be 0, then we'd have the slope at that exact point right there. So this is the y value minus the y value, f of x plus h minus f of x over x plus h minus x, h. But we can't have h be 0. Now there's a whole study that goes into limits, and you'll be talking more about that in calculus, but a lot of that is a build-up for doing exactly what we're going to do right here. So to find the derivative, or the slope formula, we want to find f of x plus h. F of x plus h here is 4 times x plus h. See, f is a factory that takes things, x plus h, squares them, and multiplies by 4. That's f of x plus h. Minus plain old f of x, 4x squared, all on h, and what we want to have is h to be 0. And you see, if h is 0 right now, what I would get is 4x squared minus 4x squared 0 on 0. We can't do that. So hopefully some good stuff happens to us along the way. So let's simplify. Limit as h approaches 0. 4 times FOILed, this is x squared plus xh plus xh plus 2xh plus h squared minus 4x squared on h. And if I put 0 in here for h, this is 0, this is 0. The top becomes 4x squared minus 4x squared 0 on 0. We can't do that. Hopefully something good happens. So let's continue to simplify. I want the limit as h approaches 0 of, when I distribute, we get 4x squared minus 4x squared cancels. We get 8xh plus 4h squared. Again, the 4x squared minus this 4x squared cancels, all on h. If h is 0, I get 0 plus 0 on 0. That's a problem. However, I may now reduce by h, divide the top and bottom by h, and I want the limit as h approaches 0 of 8x plus 4h. And now, if h is 0, that becomes 8x plus 4 times 0, or just 8x. So our slope formula, which we call f prime, or we can write it that way. There's a number of different ways to write derivatives, but we're going to use this form. You'll talk about more forms next year. Maybe in this class we'll get into some of that. But f prime x, or the derivative or the slope formula, is just 8x. And if you look at this, we've worked with rules for that before that say, oh, if the function's 4x squared, the slope formula is 2 times 4, 8x. But for the purpose of this short, abbreviated little assignment, you're going to go through this limit process to receive credit on this. Okay, probably a good time to pause this and try number 2, because it's virtually the same problem. If you tried it, good for you. Welcome back. If you're just following along, waiting for the assignment, no problem there. But I want you to use this notation. We want the limit as h approaches 0. Trust me on this. You are going to do this a bunch next year. Most of you going into calculus. So h is a factory that takes things, x plus h, squares them, multiplies them by -3, minus plain old f of x minus negative 3x squared, all on h. And truthfully, then we just pass it on to a really good Algebra 1 student for the next few steps. Limit as h approaches 0. And again, don't get lazy with this. We're going to rewrite this the way I did here, or we're not going to receive credit on that. We're going to use that. It's going to be a really good habit to get into going into next year. So we get -3 times FOIL x squared plus 2xh plus h squared plus 3x squared on h. Limit as h approaches 0. Distribute -3x squared plus 3x squared, and there's the whole magic right there. Those cancel. I get -3 times 2xh, -6xh. I get a minus. This should be squared in here, by the way, not out there. I get a minus 3h squared when I distribute, all on h. I can reduce by h. The limit as h approaches 0 of -6h, nope, -6x minus 3h reduced by h. And now when h equals 0, I get -6x minus 3 times 0. There it is. There's our slope formula, and you should be saying this. You should be saying, well, shoot, I knew it was -6x before. Right, you did. But the reason it is because of this process that we go through like this. When you take an AP exam or AP course, let's say you're a senior, you're moving into calculus, you will spend a lot of time doing exactly this, and you'll be glad you've seen this. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and use that information just to target. I mean, we really don't even need an answer key for these. We know what the slope formula should be. F prime x should be -12x squared. -4 times, this is actually the power rule, which we're going to talk about in the next section. And after this section we go through, you're not going to have to go through this drawn out definition of derivative process. The definition of derivative meaning all of that. But we know what our target is. So I want the limit as h approaches 0 of -4x cubed, but I want to put in x plus h into this factory, so I get -4 times x plus h cubed minus -4x cubed, all on h. Okay, that is the limit as h approaches 0. Wish I had a little stamp for that limit. Of -4 times. I'm thinking Pascal's triangle here. 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1. When I superfoil this, I'm going to get 1 of the x cubes plus 3 of the x squared with a single h plus 3 single x but a pair of h's plus 1 no x's but 3 h's, all plus 4x cubed on h. I don't know why I'm doing so much writing uphill here. Guess we'll live with it. When I distribute this, here's the magic. -4x cubed plus 4x cubed. If we don't get that canceled, we've done something wrong. So limit as h approaches 0. This cancels. I get -12x squared h. Let's hope I didn't freeze up here. Good, good, good. Sorry about that. Little technical difficulty. I think only on my end. Maybe you had a black screen for a moment. Okay. -4x cubed cancels 4x cubed. I get -12x squared h minus 12 xh squareds and minus 4 h cubes on h's, and now every term has an h, and that should always happen for us. So that's the limit. Try again. The limit as h approaches 0, let's reduce an h, and I get negative 12x squared minus 12x single h minus 4h squared, and now put 0 in. This goes away, this goes away. Why can't we just put 0 in to begin with? Because we end up with 0 on 0. Even here, 0, 0, 0 on 0. It's not until we cancel that denominator. So now we put 0 in, those terms are gone, and we get negative 12x squared. And we've got what we had expected. So definitely a good time for you to try this on your own. Hopefully we understand that f prime of x, when we're through with this, should end up being 9x squared. Welcome back. Hope you tried it. If you didn't, last chance. So I want the limit as h approaches 0 of 3 times x plus h cubed minus 3x cubed all on h. And now it's just algebra. 3 times Pascal's triangle again, 1, 3, 3, 1, 1x cubed plus 3x squared h plus 3xh squared plus 1h cubed minus the 3x cubed all on h. Looking for the limit as h approaches 0. When I distribute, there's the magic, and I get 9x squared h plus 9xh squared plus 3h cubed on h, cancel an h. The limit as h approaches 0 of 9x squared, reducing by h, plus 9xh plus 3h squared. Now we put 0 in, and I get the 9x squared that we knew we should get. Again, so why do we do this? You're going to have to do this a lot in the future. But we're going to free you up for some rules. Okay, now on these ones, a little bit more going on. I'm going to encourage you to write small. I'm going to try to do the same here. So I might start out here with just a little bit of a zoom. And I think I'll write that up here. Limit as h approaches 0. I want f of x plus h minus f of x on h, slope formula. So here we go. The limit as h approaches 0 of 2 times x plus h squared minus 3 times x plus h. Again, f is a factor that takes things. F is a factor that takes things, puts them here, squares them, multiplies it by 2, puts it here, multiplies it by 3, and subtracts those. So that's really just my very first term. Now I need minus f of x. F of x is 2x squared minus 3x. So you might want to think of this like that. There's f of x plus h. 2 times the thing squared minus 3 times the thing minus the thing, all on h. So let's see what happens when we distribute FOIL. I get 2 times x squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus 3x minus 3h when I distribute, minus 2x squared. And here is by far the biggest mistake. And it's either made in this step right here, we put minus 3x, or it's made up here when we don't put the parentheses. This is plus 3x. Now, if you're really paying close attention on the last step, you'll know if you made that mistake, because notice this minus 3x cancels this plus 3x. If this was minus 3x minus 3x minus 6x, I won't be able to cancel an h eventually because I'll have that bad minus 6x term. All right, limit as h approaches 0. 2x squared, magic. Magic. The non-h terms should get wiped out. Distribute here, I get 4xh plus 2h squared. I've got a minus 3h, but these canceled, all on h, reduced by h, limit as h approaches 0, 4x plus 2h minus plain old 3, and now if h is 0, we get 4x plus 0 minus 3. Take a look. Is that expected? Should have known going into this f prime of x is 4x minus 3. The slope of this, 2 times 2x, 4x, minus the slope of 3x minus 3. Definitely want to try number 6. Give it a shot here. Welcome back. Going to continue to write small here. Looking for the limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h. That's negative 4 times x plus h squared plus 5 times x plus h. F is a factor that takes things, squares them, multiplies by 4, and adds 5 times the thing. So that's like our first term. Minus f of x. F of x is negative 4x squared plus 5x. And I talked about on the last problem, pretty good habit to get into, making certain that we put those parentheses here so we don't get that most common algebra mistake. So limit as h approaches 0. Let's see what good happens here for us. I get negative 4 times x squared plus 2xh plus h squared plus 5x plus 5h plus 4x squared, distribute minus 5x. Did I get some magic here? Minus 4x squared plus 5x minus 5x. I don't know if I've said this in this class before, but we joke about it a lot in our department. It's you know, we build this mountain to calculus. Calculus, to be perfectly honest, is pretty darn easy. What makes calculus hard is that it oftentimes turns into hard algebra. Now, I'm not trying to imply that this is hard algebra or out of reach for us by any manner, but right now my screen is frozen. Hoping it comes back to me. I'm waving my hand under here, so I'm going to have to stop this and do this in 2 parts.